You have to be so committed to your life, your vision, your purpose, your dreams, your business that you won't quit. Okay, so in this episode, we are going into part 2 of what I actually did to scale. So in part 1, I shared a lot about the behind the scenes, the messy, the emotional, the things that came up when I was really going for more, and where I started and how I was using the spaghetti approach and how I was an unconscious competent, and the shame that came up when I really stepped into going for more for myself, and the relationship stuff. So you're going to want to listen to part 1. If you're entering the episode here, you're going to want to go back and listen to part 1 for sure. And in this episode, we are going to be talking more about the mental aspects of success. That's absolutely critical. You know, I like to say that scaling or success in business is 80% the mental aspect of success, the mindset, the inner game piece, and 20% the strategies and tactics and the action plans. You absolutely need that. You need good strategies, tactics, and action plans. But if you don't have the mental aspect, then you will be spinning out at, getting in your own way, in constant overwhelm, not stepping forward, not really getting to the next level, even though you know what to do. But sometimes you don't know what to do. So you do need, like, 20% is the outer game action, clear action plans, tactics and strategies, and 80% is the mental aspect. And in this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about what some of those tactical outer game strategies were, and then give you more on the inner game as well. So let's see. I left off talking a little bit about how I did increase the price point of what I was charging. And that was a big part of what it took to scale. Now, the inner game piece of that, so that's the outer game piece. You guys, there's 3 ways to make more money in business. You can, charge more. You can raise your prices, right? You can sell more, that's quantity, or you can add new channels of business. So add something that you're selling to the equation. There's only 3 ways, okay? It's not rocket science. Now, when you get into your unique business and your, how you're going to do that, there's some variation and combination that works for you. And there are nuances that you need to pay attention to in your unique business. But fundamentally, it's not rocket science, guys. There's only 3 ways to make more money, but most people make it really complicated. So I ended up, my first strategy was that first one. I was going to raise my prices, but you know what? I had already tried that in the past, but I couldn't hold the price point. I didn't have the belief in myself, that self-value, in order to really hold what I had, what I was like increasing my price point to. So I actually went back to selling at a lower level, and because I didn't want to stop completely. But when I stepped up at this point and I shifted my inner game, that self-value piece, that self-image piece in the subconscious. And when I did that, I ultimately was able to triple my price point. And in order to do that, not only did I have to really work on my inner game piece, work on that self-image piece, but I had to learn to sell at a different level. Now, I had already been in business for 3 years. So, if you're not selling, you're not in business, okay? Just like, period. Let's not beat around the bush here. So I already knew how to sell to a certain extent, and we'll do a whole nother episode on selling, because selling is so freaking important, and so many women they run away from it. They don't want to be pushy. They don't want to overstep. They don't want to come across as sleazy or manipulative or any of that. And nor do I, and nor do you need to. But you do need to step into how to sell and get out of your own way and really understand that sales is service. And when I really grok that, and I will go into this a lot more, and here's a little underhanded pitch. We are going to go into this in huge detail at the Unstoppable Woman Summit. And that's one of the things that I love helping people with. So that is like a huge thing that you could do for yourself, would be to come to the summit. And you can find that in the show notes for this episode. So I had to learn to value myself. I had to learn to sell, and I had to connect to that investment, okay, and really step forward, okay? Connect that to the investment that I was making in myself and what other people were making in me, and step forward. So what do I mean by that? I mean that when I tripled my price point, in order for me to do that, I had to increase the value of what I was selling. Otherwise, I couldn't justify doing that. So how do you increase the value of what you're selling overnight? Well, in one aspect of it is you just do it. You sell at a higher price point, and you're like, I am going to give at that higher value level, and I'm going to perform at that higher value level, and you just hold yourself to that higher standard. You have to do that, okay? The law of compensation says that you will be compensated according to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty in replacing you. Those three things. So I had to raise my game. I had to do what I did at a higher level. I had to be better at what I did. But the rub is, you won't raise your game until you get to that level. It's like I had to sell at that first higher level first, and then I freaking raised my game. I was like, holy smokes, I have to step it up. And I did that. I absolutely did that. But the caveat here is that you don't have to overgive. That is one of the big things that stops people from either taking on new clients, selling more of their product and having to service more clients that way, or selling at a higher price point, is that they feel, or even having adding a new channel of business, is that they feel like it's going to overwhelm them because they're going to have to do more. Here's the thing. You have to learn how to systemize. You have to learn how to streamline. You have to learn how to do more with less, meaning be better at what you do. Be more efficient at what you do. Get results faster. All of that's required. And quite frankly, I had to hire. I could no longer, I had already started hiring, but I no longer could do it at the level that I wanted to do it without adding more people to my team, more contractors, more employees, more people to help me solve problems. Okay, so I had to hire more people, even though I was stretched financially. I felt like I couldn't, like emotionally, I felt like I couldn't, and the budget looked like it couldn't hold it. I still had to do it. Okay. I still had to do it. And so I stretched myself. I hired more. That allowed me to leverage. Then I could sell more, and it went on and on and on there. Now, I also had to move through the shame involved with actually selling at a higher price point. I know that sounds crazy. Like, well, wouldn't you be proud of yourself? Wouldn't you be like excited? Isn't that what you want? But I will tell you that there was shame involved. Shame says you're doing something. Shame says you are wrong. Guilt says you're doing something wrong. Both were happening for me, but fundamentally, it felt wrong for me to sell at a higher price point initially because I'd never done it. I felt like an imposter. Okay. I felt like, who am I to do that? I haven't done it yet. Okay. But I had to look at the results that I had gotten up until now for my clients at the lower price point. And I had to go, wow, is that worth more? Absolutely. Right. And then I had to step into more, and I had to move towards my resistance, towards that feeling of this is wrong and the terror that that brought up, quite frankly. I had to move towards that, not away from it, to break through. So that's a big tip right there, guys. I hope you're listening to that. Okay. The next thing that I had to do in order to increase my own value, personal self-worth, was I had to start investing in myself personally. That meant, and I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again because I cannot tell you how important it was for me. For you, it might be, you might already be doing this. For you, it might be something else that you need to invest in. For me, it was hair, nails, nicer clothes, flying first class, taking higher level Ubers. I had to get new office furniture. Oh, that stretched me. Okay. But it was like, when I didn't do it piecemeal. You know, what I'd done in the past was do everything piecemeal, what I could do at the time, but then nothing ever matched and it didn't look good. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but for me, beauty is so important. So a space that's clean, orderly, beautiful, like lights me up, that I love, was super important. And so I bit the bullet and I bought new office furniture, and like to the point to like organizational pieces too. The Container Store won my heart, right? But it was so important. I got a new chair, new desk, new credenza, new organizational things. Everything was pretty and new art, new carpet, all of that. And I felt like a friggin' $1,000,000 in there, right? I did not feel like I was on a shoestring anymore or bootstrapping it. And that allowed me to step into holding energy and space for my clients at a different level. So that there's an energetic piece to this as well that you need to look at. I also started to invest in my environment, the house that I lived in a bigger way. So we had a beautiful 1880s, 1890s, I forget the actual date of the house. Gorgeous old house. Loved it. But you know what I didn't like? The windows that I could never get clean. Like there was, more than 100 years of paint on it. And yes, it would have been amazingly beautiful to strip those windows and rehang them and make them all brand spanking new. But it would have taken, not me, because not my area of specialty, but my then husband, a huge amount of time, and he was not into it. So that meant buying new windows. At least that's what it meant for us. And I invested a huge, like for that house, for me, it was a huge amount. Maybe it wasn't for you. It isn't for you, but it was like over $30,000 in new windows because I wanted to open and close the windows with ease. I just wanted it to be beautiful. I wanted it to be clean. I wanted it to be orderly. So I started to do those sorts of things. I started to get new wall sconces and invest in things. Now, I was matching this with doing the work in my business to grow my business. But there's a chicken and egg piece here that people miss. They think they need to make the money first in order to invest in their life and their business. And I did it the reverse. I invested before I felt fully ready. Now, that's not to say that I bought a Bentley when I was making, $138,000. That would have been insanity. Okay. Like that just, something like that was not what I could have probably made it, swung it, right? But it wasn't going to help grow the business enough. But the things that I was doing, like getting a new office furniture, had a much more direct correlation to helping me grow the business. Investing in mentorship, holy smokes, that helped me grow the business. That was the biggest investment, and that was the thing that moved the needle the most. But all the other investments made a difference as well. So I call this running the stairs, and I use that analogy for a lot of different things. But doing small but quick investments until you can make bigger investments is super important. Like the first time I flew first class, I was not prepared for that price tag. It scared the bejeebers out of me. Okay. I did not feel worthy of that. And there's a funny story about like just feeling like a fish out of water. Like, what is everyone doing? Do I order a drink? Do I not order a drink? Like, do they take my coat? Do they not take my coat? Do I talk to the person next to me? I was like so freaking self-conscious. Okay. But never going back. Okay. That's absolutely the way to fly. So I had to do these things before I was ready is the lesson there. You have to do it before you're ready, but you have to match it with the work that you need to do in your business and to scale. It has to go hand in hand. Okay. So then the next thing that I want to share with you that I did was I studied every morning. Okay. I still study. I still feed my mind. I still make sure that I am focused on the right things. And studying every morning was the thing that I needed to do. I turned to the laws. I read and I studied and I turned to the laws and I figured out what I needed to apply every single day. Okay. This I made a habit. I did not skip it. Quite frankly, I was in the terror barrier a goodly amount of the time when I was making this quantum leap. I was pushed to my growth edge and beyond. And all my stuff was coming up. So I needed some sort of grounding practice, something that helped me get super, super clear about my path forward, something that I could believe in and could give me guidance and focus and structure. And for me, that was intellectually understanding the laws, really wrapping my head around it so that I knew them backwards and forwards and applying them. So this is something that I absolutely believe in and recommend that everyone does. The other thing that I did was I asked a ton of questions to my mentor, and it's what I recommend everyone do. Get someone who you can ask questions to. And I asked the metaphysical questions. I asked the spiritual questions. I asked the questions about the laws. I asked the tactical questions. Should I do this or should I do this? What action should I take now? What about this? I asked the sales questions. How do I do this? What about this? What would you say here? I was deep into like maximizing that relationship so that I could really leverage it and scale. And I wasn't doing it from a needy place, like save me. I was doing it from a place of like, if I have a problem or challenge right now, I am going to utilize what's at my disposal to get help. I'm no longer going to be in the DIY mode. I was too proud to ask questions, not willing to get help. I was like, my success demands that I ask for help. That was how I held myself to that standard. My success demands it. My life demands it. My life depends on it. Okay? This is huge, guys. Okay? Ask questions. Ask. Okay. I also consistently stepped into more. So what is this? This is the action piece. Okay. I had to take action and take action quickly without overthinking. Okay. This doesn't mean without thinking. Okay. So don't misunderstand here, but it's without overthinking. You got to trust desire to be positive and call you forward. You've got to start trusting yourself and being willing to make a mistake if you don't get it, if it doesn't play out the way you want it to, and trust that you'll be able to course correct, because you will be able to unless you stop, unless you quit. So are you going to quit? That's the question. You got to ask yourself, are you going to quit? There is nothing that's going to get me to quit. Okay? Nothing. I want that to sink in for you guys. Nothing. You have to be so committed to your life, your vision, your purpose, your dreams, your business, that you won't quit. You might go off course and need to course correct. That's fine. You might make a mistake and need to course correct. That's fine. You might have huge failures, but you haven't failed unless you quit. So are you going to quit? You got to ask yourself that. Okay? So consistently step into action. Call yourself to a higher standard. Keep taking the action. Are you in resistance to taking action? What story are you telling yourself? You have to take the action, and you have to take the right kind of action. Okay. I also learned to trust myself with those quick decisions. I've made plenty of mistakes along the way. Tons. Don't think that because I've had success, that has come without making mistakes. It's come from the mistakes. I like to tell the story about when I invested in a contractor, and I paid this guy $30,000 to help me set up a marketing funnel. And there's a lot of backstory to that I could tell in a lot more detail at another time. But I had all the spidey senses going up saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And these are different spidey senses than that feeling where you really want something and then you feel fear and you start talking yourself out of it. That's a different feeling. This was red flag, red flag, red flag. And I didn't listen to it for a variety of reasons. I take 100% personal responsibility for that. I was deferring and abdicating responsibility to someone else who had recommended and referred this person to me. And I just like, okay, she must know better than I do. And I'm just going to go with this. And that was the wrong decision. That was the wrong choice. But it was the right choice on the other hand, because I learned an enormous lesson. I now know what that feeling feels like, and I now know that I need to be 100% personally responsible for all the decisions I make, all the choices that I make, and I will never do that again. So this may have cost me $30,000 right now, but it was an investment in my future hugely, because I will never do that again. So that has saved me. I can quantify that and tell you that has saved me millions of dollars, or will save me millions of dollars, because I will never get hooked like that again. Done. I learned that lesson, huge, but I would not have learned that lesson at a smaller price point by any means. Okay. It needed to be large enough to get my attention. That's for sure. Okay. So keep that in mind. But in doing so, I learned to trust myself. That's huge. Okay. The only way to that place is through learning it yourself. Okay. What else do I want to say? I kept my goals in mind. That was a big, big, big thing. I kept what I wanted in mind. I had a goal to make $1 million that year, and I would go out on walks, and I wasn't making 10K a month. Okay, some months. Like, that's a huge leap, guys. Like, let that sink in. That was a huge leap. Some months I was not making 10K, and I was like freaking the freakity freak out, like in so much like, what the hell did I sign up for? Can I do it? Is it going to work? Is it going to work? Is it going to work? I don't see it. 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 You know, like, and I was freaking out about the circumstances. And I knew, because I had studied, that this is not the way to go after your goals. We'll do a whole episode on goal setting at some point. And it is another underhanded pitch here, guys. Or overt, or whatever you want to call this. But goal setting is one of the things that I love to teach, because if you're not clear on your goals, you can't achieve them. We're going to be talking about that at the Unstoppable Woman Summit as well. So my goal was $1 million, and I knew that I had to keep that front and center in my mind, but I was also not yet proficient at not focusing on the not having, and only focusing on the idea that was ready to come into manifestation, but was certainly not here yet. So one of the things that I did to help myself with that is I would think about it when I was going out on walks with my dog. And that bilateral movement of walking helped me get through the cray-cray thinking. And I would call in this vision while I was thinking and really feel into it and locked in when I was walking. And I did that every day. And sometimes it was like swimming upstream. Like, how do I let go of all the chaos in my head and the seemingly disbelief? But I just kept at it, and I kept going and focusing on what I wanted, not what I didn't want. And that's part of the constant spaced repetition that's required to change a belief. So yes, in the beginning, it was a constant battle. And yes, I stepped forward every single day, and I kept that vision clear. Okay. I also had to change a bit of the self-image piece. Well, I've had to change a lot of the self-image piece. Again, more for a future episode. But the thing that I want to say here and now in this episode on this is that for me, I had a self-image. This is an interesting one for you guys. I had a self-image of always being just this far from the top, but not being the top, not being the best. I was really, really excellent, but there was always someone better. And I remember actually tracing, there was an early experience of this on in my life when I was in high school, where I had just entered high school, and it was an AP history class, and I was all nervous that I was with all these smart people, and like, was I going to be able to keep up? And I studied my ass off for the first test, and I got the top grade in the class. And the super smarty pants anyways, there was a person who was classically super smarty pants, and I could see the look on her face when it was announced that I got the top grade and she got the second to top grade. She was like, "What? I didn't get the top grade?" And I had the exact opposite. I was like surprised that I got the top grade. And then you know what I did? I didn't try as hard. I didn't study as much. And I got the second top grade for the rest of that year, right? I stayed in that middle, like just below the top. And I don't think I remembered that until I had this experience this year, that year of going for $1 million and getting to 700K. Now, again, I want to be very clear. I celebrated, okay? But I also want to be clear that I had that big goal, and I was disappointed. I cried. I had to be talked to, like, hey, do you see what you just did? You're in like the top 1% of earners now. Like, what the friggity frick, okay? And I did wake up very quickly. But I also woke up to a pattern of being disappointed and a pattern of like not meeting my goals, and had to see that. And then I had to change that self-image to someone who always meets her goals, someone who goes for it and achieves. Okay. Now that's just, I always have stretch goals also. So there's more on that. Okay. So, keep the next goal in the last thing that I want to end this episode with is the idea of keeping the next goal in mind for you on the small things and on the large things. So on the small things, when I finish this is my next project. This is the next thing I'm going for. You want to keep that front and center so you always have that next thing and you're not stalled out wondering where the heck to go, like what's next. But on the big goals, I kind of stalled out after that first year a little bit because I didn't have my next big goal. I didn't know what it should be. Always set your next big goal. Make sure that it's there for you. Okay? Make sure that you have the next big goal. When I did that, I was able to really achieve. So keep that in mind. That's what I've got for you. I hope sharing some of these personal stories about what I had to do in order to break through and get to the next level and quantum leap my business has helped you, I'd be really interested in hearing your comments about, what if this landed? What do you relate to? And where do you feel like you stop? And what are you going to do differently based on hearing what it actually took to get to the next level? Okay, rock it out and be unstoppable. Hey, thanks so much for joining us and being part of the Unstoppable Woman movement. We have got a ton of free resources for scaling your business at theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. And you can find that link in the description below. So go ahead and check those out. And we'd also love your help in getting our message out to more and more women. If you'd be willing to share this video with all the unstoppable women in your life, that would be fantastic. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Reviews, likes, and comments are greatly appreciated. We go in and read them all. So thank you for those. And thanks for listening, and be unstoppable.